Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. Match 8 of this IPL season has been completed with the Punjab Kings beating the Rajasthan Royals by 5 runs. In my previous video I mentioned that in the first 7 games we've seen so far, or 6 games then, and since yesterday's game and this game being the 8th game, in the first 8 games we've seen so far, I feel there's been an alarming lack of tactical nous. And I think that if you're looking at the coaching setups of most IPL sides, the reason why they've got a lot of reverence there is because of their reputation as players. But if you subtract that reputation and look at the decisions that are being made on the day, you realize the decisions themselves are quite ordinary. Whether it would be captains taking the wrong call to toss, 11s that don't quite make sense, impact subs that don't consist of a certain player that you'd expect to be there, batting lineups being muddled up, and bowler matchups not being used correctly in terms of some bowlers not being used at the correct time or even not being bowled at all, like we saw in yesterday's game. So I think we've seen a variety of mistakes flare up, and you're looking at these setups. It's happening across the 8 games, and even someone like an MS Dhoni, who we've associated with kind of being one step ahead or a few steps ahead of everyone else. And I thought in the way that he used Moeen Ali in the first 2 games, he could have used him better. He could have bowled him to Vijay Shankar in the first game, and had Moeen Ali bowled in the power play against LSG would have at least lost by 40 or 50 runs. And had Jadeja bowled earlier than he did as well, along with Moeen Ali and Mitchell Santner, then, like I said, LSG would have lost by at least 40 or 50 runs. So it shows even someone who we've seen make so many great calls over the years, even he hasn't been as great in that aspect in the first 2 games. And in some cases, we've seen that it's in terms of the coach and captain relationship. I feel in some cases it's the better captain versus the not so great coach, and the better coach versus the not so great captain. I feel like in MI's case, for example, I'd put Rohit Sharma in the better captain bracket, and for LSG, I would put KL Rahul in the not so great captain category. So we've seen a mixture of captain and coach relationships in terms of tactics, and you'd think which one of the two's views would get translated onto the field. And I feel for cricket to be at its competitive best, for the IPL, the best T20 league in the world, and such a great commodity in terms of a sporting league, for it to be at its best, we have to get to a stage where, look, the talent is always there. You're looking at the players that, since it is the IPL, I'm going to say, you're looking at the talent that's cropping up in India. Dhruv Jurel, as an impact substitute, plays a brilliant hand, and he averages 48 in first-class cricket. Hadn't done too much in T20s in his 3 previous innings, and the only time he has played T20s, but he walked out today and played a brilliant knock. So we've seen the talent that has emerged in India. We've seen the overseas talent as well. And the talent will be there. It's just that you need the brains behind that talent to direct things correctly. And when there are so many calls that don't make sense, I just don't know what to say. I mean, these are people that are supposed to be hired as coaches, and yet we're seeing a lot of cases where someone who's outside the management of the sides, they could make kind of predictions or tactical predictions before the game or in hindsight, and during the game could observe the calls that the opposition takes and to come up with a better blueprint themselves. And that's not the way that it should be if you want to really maximize the competition level in professional cricket. So that's something that I have been disappointed in, and unfortunately I don't think it will get any better. There have been a whole host of them, and if you're looking at this game, I wouldn't put the first call I'm going to say in the category of a mind-boggling call, and that is that, of course, if in the conditions that we saw today, if you win the toss, you would think of bowling first usually, because you'd think maybe the dew would come in, and since it is a good surface, you'd back yourself to chase the score down. But looking at the Rajasthan Royals side and the Punjab Kings side, comparing them, I think the Rajasthan Royals side is the better side, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. And I feel if you're looking at what the Rajasthan Royals did in the previous game, I know slightly different conditions, a different opposition, But yes, but you've got another side here in the Punjab Kings where without Kagiso Rabada there, yes, Nathan Ellis bowled, he got 4 wickets today, and I thought he has been going decently in his last few games, but I feel that on this surface, apart from Rahul Chahar and Arshdeep Singh bowling in the first innings, I wouldn't have really backed anyone to contend with a rampaging Jos Buttler and a Sanju Samson, and SSV Jaiswal has been in great form as well. So if the Rajasthan Royals just got off to a start and the right tactical calls were made in terms of the batting lineup, they could have scored at least 215, which I thought was the pass score for today's game. And you're looking at the Punjab Kings batsmen and thinking, yes, they'll be due in the second innings. You think, right, the batsman can chase this down. But then you're thinking, if you're looking at this side, you've got Shikhar Dhawan, who off late, he isn't the player that we saw in the Delhi Capitals, where from 2019 to 2021, after Ricky Ponting called out his strike rate, we saw that increase. And I feel he's still a very good player, but he's kind of that anchor player from the start who will kick on at the end. But if you're chasing a 215-16 score, are you really going to be relying on Shikhar Dhawan to get you over the line at this point in time? No, you aren't. Prabhsimran Singh, credit to him. I think he would have been a vital component of this chase had they chased this kind of score. And credit to him, I think before we have seen him in the IPL, we hadn't had too many opportunities, a few boundaries here and there. I think especially against SRH, there were a couple of boundaries a couple of seasons ago, and then he got out. And the form he's been in the Saeed Mushtaq Ali before this IPL, he's taken that form into the IPL. In the first 2 games, he's been absolutely brilliant. 23 off 12 against KKR and a 60 here, which is fantastic to watch. Bhanuka Rajapaksa played well in the previous game, but you're looking at his form. The last time he got to 50 before the previous game was, I think, in the Asia Cup final against Pakistan, and that was quite a few months ago now. So I think the consistency has been an issue, and if you're looking at his career so far, he's hardly even got to 30 more often than not, despite the fact that he is a talented player. So if he got going, he could be a threat in a 220 chase. You saw how he took on Narayan in the previous game. You've got Ashwin and Chahal, despite the fact they're very good spinners, and you saw how Ashwin bowled in the first innings. Maybe in the second innings, if Bhanuka Rajapaksa took them on with the dew coming in, maybe things they could have. He would have been a factor in their chase. Jitesh Sharma is a fantastic player, especially of spin, and I think that he would have been someone to look out for. But we saw in the previous season, and with what we've seen in this season so far, he is more of an impact player. And you saw with someone like a Liam Livingstone going the way he did, 437 runs. You got someone like that giving consistent impact contributions as well. And you've got Jitesh Sharma, who would play his role at number 5 or so and really play these quick-fire cameos. I believe he does have the capability to play more than a cameo. It's the reason why I would still put him as a factor in this chase. But still, we have seen so far he's been more of an impact player. Sikandar Raza is not as someone that's going to really pull the weight in a 220 chase. So provide an injection of momentum, like I said, when I previewed RCB's video per season and when I talked about the Punjab Kings as well. And the impact overs that he offers with the ball. But in this case, you've got someone who will offer an impact 20 or so, but he's not going to pull the weight in terms of getting a 216 score. Shah Rukh Khan, if he walks out late, if you lay a good foundation, if the game is in sight, then maybe. But apart from that, with what we've seen of him so far, despite the fact he's a capable player, he hasn't got too many opportunities to bat long. And when he has walked out with a few overs to go, he hasn't done as much in the IPL so far, especially in the last season. And so I think that would he be of as much use in this chase if they set up the game for him? Maybe, but apart from that, I'm not sure. Sam Curran is an impact player, as we all know. So is Harpreet Brar. So you've got the batting lineup there. Even if you play Rashid Dhawan or someone as an impact sub, he's going to be an impact player. So you've got more impact players there than you have got players that are going to really pull their weight in a 216 chase. So the Rajasthan Royals, I feel, could have backed themselves with their batting lineup, with their bowling attack to get a 216 score. And if you're thinking, will you defend it with the kind of things that I've just said about the batting lineup and two fantastic spinners in Ashwin and Chahal, and you've got some bowlers in Jason Holder as well. And I don't know if Kuldeep Sen is injured, but if they brought in Kuldeep Sen as an impact player, along with KM Asif and Trent Boult as well, you'd think that attack could defend this score in this situation. So I feel it's not conventional thinking. You'd think, oh no, you have to kind of bowl first. But I feel the Rajasthan Royals are a better team batting first than they are batting second. And in this game, I feel that Sanju Samson should have won the toss and chose to bat first, contrary to popular belief. 3 more things on this game, and I will cover the other games. And the first of those 3 things being Jos Buttler was injured during the 20th over of the first innings after he took that catch. Therefore, he couldn't open the batting alongside Jaiswal in the second innings, and we saw Ravichandran Ashwin be promoted to the opening slot alongside Jaiswal. And the Ashwin fan in me was pleasantly surprised when when he walked out to bat. And I at first didn't know why it was, but then I heard that Jos Buttler was injured after he took that catch, and he walked out to bat at 3 in this game. The Ashwin fan in me was very happy to see him bat because of course, of what he's done for India, what he's done for the Rajasthan Royals in the previous year. And I actually believe that if you're looking at the cover drives he plays off the back foot, how he lofts over mid-wicket, you've got elements there. We've seen it in the past where he's walked out, especially in the previous season, he's walked out and played these breezy innings and struck at 141 in the previous year. And I do believe that if they were looking for him to give a brisk start or play second fiddle alongside Yashasvi Jaiswal is in great form, they realistically could have expected some kind of a brisk innings, especially if you played him in the lower middle order at number 7 or so, because he has been in good form. Having said that, subtracting all the happiness from the move, I think if you've got a situation where Jason Holder's batting at 9 when you're chasing a 200 score almost, I think it's just ridiculous. I felt like in terms of the impact players of both bat and bowl, I don't know if Kuldeep Sen is injured, but if you had played him in the bowling innings, pretend you could have got someone else in for the bat in terms of the batting innings, and pretend you brought in Dhruv Jurel instead of Kuldeep Sen. You'd have batting down to 8, a dynamic batting lineup for this chase. And I feel that you didn't have to play Devdutt Padikkal, like I said, and I will get to that in a bit. But if you're not optimizing the resources that you had, if you got Jason Holder, who I thought him batting at 7 for LSG and DSG was ridiculous. And I understand if you've got an impact player role and if you've got Dhruv Jurel who played well in this game, maybe they would bat him at 6 and they may bat Jason Holder at 7. But there's no reason why he should bat lower than 7, even in this situation, in my view. And like I said, I thought LSG and DSG used him terribly in their respective seasons, and somehow the Rajasthan Royals are managing to bat him even lower. So it's a ridiculous underutilization of a fantastic player, who the only team that seems to kind of have faith in his batting is the Barbados Tridents, where he bats at 4 for them. So this kind of a player not being even batted in the top 6 is ridiculous, and I don't know when that will change, but I hope it does. I have more faith in the Rajasthan Royals to bat him in the correct position than I did have in LSG and in DSG to do so. And on Devdutt Padikkal, like I said, if he's batting at 4 in this side, I even mentioned in my preview, as an impact player, are you really going to use him? I mean, if you're chasing 140 in Chepauk pretend, you may just bring him in as another batsman, just as an assurance policy. But in this case, if you've got him batting at 4, Arian Parag has been in terrific form for Assam with both bat and ball. I really thought, I enjoyed his innings of 20 off top. He played well. And I thought that had he gone on for a bit longer, this would have really just been a slap in the face to the critics that have been criticizing him for, especially off late, and even quite a lot of the time, for no reason. I think that you saw what he did for the Rajasthan Royals in that game against RCB the previous year. I've mentioned so many times that I believe he's the most naturally confident player in this competition. And in a way, no matter how many people troll him, he just seems to. Well, I'm not surprised he's had a very good domestic season this time around. I've always believed in his capability, and I don't understand why he gets trolled so much. And I feel like he doesn't get rewarded, or he doesn't even get talked about in even half a positive light. Even though you saw today's game 20 of 12, and people will say, oh, he didn't take his opportunity. When you see the things that were happening around him, and you think he's not the reason why they lost this game. So I've always had a sympathy towards Rian Parag because of how he is viewed by many, and I feel that as a cricketer, we know his talent. We've seen since I think in IPL 2019 was the time that he was incepted into the IPL, and I think that we will see the best of him this season, and I'm not surprised he has been having a great domestic season as well. So if you've got a player like him, he should be batting at 4. You've got Samson at 3, like I said, that is a fixed position for him in the top 3. And for Devdutt Padikkal, you can't bat him in the top 3 when you've got that top 3, and he would have to adapt to number 4. And credit to him in some innings, a couple of innings last year. I thought he scored these brisk 30 or 150 strike rate. And he did adapt to 4 in some of the innings. But in a general sense, we've seen that it's become obvious that he is batting out of position at 4, and I thought he was, even when he did play those good innings at 4 in the previous season a couple of times. And I don't think you need to play him now that you've got the emergence of Dhruv Jurel lower down the order. So with Parag at 4, Hetmyer at 5, Jason Hort at 6, it's a fantastic top 6, Dhruv Jurel 7, Ravichandran Ashwin 8. So if you made better substitutes with the ball and the bat, in T20 you only need batting down to 8. So in my view, Hodder at 9 is a ridiculous luxury that, again, you're just underutilizing him at that point. And the last thing on Punjab Kings, I don't know what Vidwat Kaverappa has done not to even be named in an impact substitution. I mean, you're including Rishi Dhawan at the death overs, and I don't even think he bowled. He bowled 2 overs against KKR, and they were very happy in that game when he bowled because they really took a lot of runs off him quite effortlessly. You've got a Kaverappa who's been in such good form in the domestic season, and you think, what has he done not to get in the side? That you put someone who bowls 2 overs in a game at most. So I thought it was ridiculous to include Rishi Dhawan as an impact sub on a bowling front. I just didn't understand that at all. And finally, on the other games, from the first game, it's just been, I mentioned in my previous video, had Alzarri Joseph bowled the second over to Ruturaj Gaikwad, I believe he would have dismissed him with how the situation was going. With the confidence of Alzarri Joseph, I reckon, look, you may call this ifs and buts, but in my view, he had a high chance of dismissing Ruturaj Gaikwad. And a higher chance than what Hardik Pandya had. I thought, yes, he does back his bowling. You've seen that for India, and you've seen that for the Gujarat Titans as well. You've got Josh Little, Alzarri Joseph, Mohammad Shami. What are you doing bowling anyone else apart from those 3 with the new ball? So I thought that was a ridiculous score. And like I said, if MS Dhoni had bowled Moeen Ali to Vijay Shankar, CSK I think would have won the game. I think there's all this rhetoric of the matchups of spinners bowling to right arm off spinners bowling to the right handers. Apparently you can't do that, even though we've seen how well Moeen does bowl to the right handers, especially on tracks with a bit of turn on it. So I didn't understand that at all. And I think I'm thinking of the second game, Punjab Kings versus KKR. We saw Vidwat Kaverappa not being introduced as a sub, which I thought was ridiculous. And I rate Chandrakant Pandit as a good coach, but I don't know what the batting lineup was in that chase against Punjab. They lost the game by duck with loose in the end, and I thought batting Nitish Rana 5, it just didn't make sense. Anukul Roy at 3, Mandeep Singh opening and Venkatesh Iyer at 5. I didn't even understand that at all. So I thought Venkatesh Iyer would open alongside Ramanullah Gurbaz, which I already thought Jagadeeshan should have played to play VSIP. But that didn't happen, and even then they got the lineup wrong, so that was another one. LSG versus DC, Krunal Pandya batting at 4 ahead of Pooran. I've said it in the CSK game as well. It is utterly ridiculous, and I don't think I need to say anything more on that. And on the recent game, David Warner not bowling Akshar Patel because I saw apparently it was matchups and conditions. Which are you kidding me? I mean, you're defending that score on a surface that does offer some turn. And in my preview, I said Kuldeep Yadav and Akshar Patel would be the ones that are key in that game, and you don't even bowl one of them when you bowl Mitchell Marsh, who hasn't bowled for so long. So I think I thought that was an utterly ridiculous move. I would have bowled Nokia to Saha opening the bowling, and instead they bowled Mukesh Kumar and Khalil Ahmed and a free 22 runs in the first 2 overs. And look what happens. The first ball Nokia bowls to Saha, he dismisses him. Mark Wood should have opened the bowling against CSK for the LSG game. I don't know what they were doing bowling Avesh Khan in the second over. Like I said, if you're looking for an Indian seamer that moves the ball around, Avesh Khan is not that seamer, and I would have bowled Mark Wood early on to really rattle Devon Conway and Rudraj Gaikwad, because we've seen how good players of spin they are. And I said Krunal Pandya in my previous video. I didn't actually mention Mark Wood in my previous video, even though I thought he could have bowled. Even he would have been better than bowling Avesh Khan. I mean, it just set them on their way, and I think that that was on that. And we saw Mumbai Indians getting to 171, which I thought was on the roadmap to recovery, which I thought they would go on. I thought Jofra Archer would bowl from an opening burst to Faf du Plessis and Virat Kohli, hitting hard lengths at pace. He doesn't bowl until the third over. This is a rusty Jofra Archer, not like what we've seen of him before, understandably so. But you already let the batsmen get their eye in, and in the end you pay the price. And I know there's a thing where Faf du Plessis against left-armers, which is a thing. However, if he faces Trent Bolt, fair enough. You're bowling Jason Behrendorff and Avesh Khan to Faf du Plessis. It's not going to work. So I think that there are things where matchups have been interpreted incorrectly and at times have been completely ignored. So I don't know if I've missed a game. I may have missed a game, but I think that's enough tactical blunders for this video. And let's see the blunders that I'm sure we will see in the future games. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?